Well, I'm in the kitchen of Ester Carrol here in Dublin, and we're talking about people, adopted people, who have a great desire to find out about their parentage. And Esther was one of these people, but she did something about it, Esther, didn't you?
I did.
Well, before we actually talk about the story itself, can we just go back to your very early memories? Well, these have been in a convent.
I can remember back further than that.
Really?
Yeah, to my foster home, where I was fostered.
Yeah.
3 years of age. And that was the only home now that I ever knew. I stayed there for until I come to school age, and then was brought to the orphanage at approximately five and a half.
5.
And went to school there from there. We used to go to school.
Can you remember actually leaving the foster parents? Was that a bit of a wrench?
No, I don't really remember leaving as such. I just remember being in the orphanage, but I don't remember the break now away.
Right.
I was just brought there now.
What was life like in a convent?
Well, I found it all right. I can't say now,
Of course, you wouldn't have anything to compare it with.
I didn't. I didn't even know any other life. That was the only life now that I knew. The few years now, which I thoroughly enjoyed now, I can remember those years now.
Yeah. And they're happy. They're happy.
They were
memories.
happy. They were. Oh yeah, very happy memories.
Right. How long did you stay? Up to what age did you stay in the convent?
Until 16, approximately 16.
Well, say from the ages of 12 and 13, would this be an age when you would have been considering who your parents were, or did it enter your mind?
No, it never entered my mind at that time. Not actually until I left. When I left now, you were sent out into the open world at 16 years of age. You knew nobody. You were completely on your own and had to grow up very quick.
It's a pity there was no FOSS courses then, was it?
Yeah, indeed it was. But, it never worried me really, because everybody was in the same boat when you were there.
Well, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I didn't bother really about it until after I was married.
Right.
And when I started having my children. Now,
but you must have thought it now before then. It must have,
Yes, just now birthdays or thing like that. You'd inclined to have a chip on your shoulder. You felt, well, there was somebody out there that had me, and they must have known it was my birthday or a thing like that. And you got this chip on your shoulder, and what happened to them or where they were, you'd like to know.
Right. Well, going back to the convent, did you share the educational facilities of day pupils, or what way did it work?
Oh no, we went out to school and we mixed with other children, brought to school and brought back. But we mixed with the other children. We didn't have school in the convent as such.
Right, and you didn't feel that maybe the other pupils that were going home were better off, or you didn't have a sense of it?
No, it was during the war years. And I think everybody was I think we were nearly better off than a lot of people outside. At least we had something to eat. And I think it was, if I was in a family, say now of 10 or 11, they might have been an awful lot worse off than we were.
That's
but
true.
It's only afterwards that you realise this. That you feel, well, you had a bed, you were fed, and
you had your friends.
You had your friends, yeah. We made our own.
Okay, so we left now at 16. What was it like now going out at 16?
Oh, I'll never forget it. It was. I went now to a big house. We worked very hard now from say age 12, even younger. The work now was really hard now that we had to do. Laundry work, scrubbing, polishing. Everything just had to be shining. Now, when you think of my own grandchildren at the moment, at that age, but we worked very hard, and people looked for the like of us because they knew we were hard-working people. And I suppose they exploited us in one sense, but we really were exploited there in the convent.
Right, but that was almost like that was almost like grounding for the outside.
It
in a
was,
way.
yeah.
So the first job now, how did you go for the interview and can you
Oh, I
remember
didn't
that?
go in for an interview at all. It was just brought. As a matter of fact, it was to a police house I went to, and I was just doing the heavy work there. There was another woman there, sort of over me, like, you know, she would have been senior to me, and I was more or less pot walloper. And done all the heavy work, you know.
Did you stay there long?
Until I got a bit of sense to move out, and moved out then somewhere else.
Can we just, before we leave the priest's house,
Yeah.
as a matter of interest, can you remember what you were earning?
What I was wearing.
No, earning.
Earning. Oh no, I suppose we could say now maybe 10 shillings a month.
This is the
That would have been going back now. Oh,
late 40s.
late 40s, yeah.
Right.
40, 45, 46, around about that.
Anyway, you said you got sense.
I said I got sense. I moved to another house. You know, it was housework. That was the only work I ever knew.
Right.
Hard work.
Yeah.
Never done me any harm anyway.
Right.
But I went to another house, which was quite nice. And then I met my husband and fell in love with him. A lovely man, a good few years older than I was, but a gentleman. And he was the type of man, now, never having a man in my life, he was just a man sort of that you would look up to. And he was like a father figure, come brother, come what you like, you know, and very gentle. But anyway, eventually got married during the war years again. We were still on rations when we got married.
Right.
And we got married and had 4 children. But the funny thing about it was when I got married and had the eldest child, 4 boys, when the eldest child was born and he was given into my arms, the first words I mentioned was, well, there's nobody going to take him from me. It was the only thing that I felt was part of me that I ever had, because in the convent you never had anything of your own. Cast down clothes, everything else. You might have a now rag doll or a thing like that, but you had nothing that you could call your own. But this baby was mine, and there was nobody going to take it. And then I had 3 other sons after that, and I felt exactly the same with them all. And we were a family, and a very happy family.
Now, tell us when the urging started then.
Well, I went up to the convent on a couple of occasions and tried to get some information off of them. Say now, the children would have been only very young at the time. Around about, say, 50 in the 50s, that time.
Right.
And I went up to the convent a few times, and I remember meeting one nun, and she's dead now, Lord have mercy on her. And I asked her one day, had she any information, or could she tell me anything about my family? And I always remember, I can still see her to this day. She had a sneer on her face, and the exact word she says to me was, "What do you want to know for?" And my remark to her was then, well, I would like to know where I come from. I said, I'm after having 4 children, which I had at the time. And I said, when I went into hospital to have those 4 children, I said, before I delivered those children, I said, they had to take a history, my history. And I said, to think, says I, that you could take a child from somebody at the door and not ask who that child was, where they come from, or anything else. I said I was very hurt. And from then on, I started, trying to... But I tried to... the first time then that it really hit... when it hit me again was I was going to Lourdes one year and went in to get a passport. And I had a baptism certificate, all right, but I went in to get a passport and could get no birth certificate. They could not find, but my name was wrong anyway. I was looking under the wrong name. And they looked 3 years ahead and 3 years back around the time, and they gave me a form that if ever I wanted anything in the line of a certificate, to say that I mustn't have been registered. And these things could have happened at that time. So I had nothing. But then I couldn't do an awful lot more. Anytime I went to do anything, I sort of come up against a brick wall.
Well, did that nun's remark to you, did that strengthen your resolve to find out?
Yes.
Yeah. Why do you think she said it in that way?
Well, I felt I don't know. I can still see that snigger on her face. And there's much to say. What do you want? What do you want? You'll probably.
Did you find in the convent and some of those nuns? Did you form any was there affection and was there a mother figure or?
Yeah, some now I got on well with, and there was some now that I didn't like, but most of them I got on fairly well with.
I would have imagined that there would have been some close association, but you didn't have that experience.
No, never had that experience of closeness with any of them. Just got on well with some of them, and some of them I didn't. But never. I tell you what, you missed an awful lot, which I give my grandchildren now, and I gave my own children as much as I could. Love, a hug or a kiss. You never got that. Of course, they couldn't. They had so many to look after,
I suppose the reason they didn't give you that much affection is because they had a lot of people to deal with. But would you think they did a good job?
Well, I'd say they done the best they could. And with the resources now that they had, that was during the war years. And looking back on it now, it can't have been too easy on them. But now I have no really qualms about. I felt I was treated all right.
Right.
Some people may not have thought that. Some people may have got rougher than I did. Right. But overall...
Yeah. You did have a childhood. You didn't feel your childhood was spoiled.
No. We did. We went to the sea and we went to Termfrecken, I remember. We went to... There was another house there we went to for a holiday. I forget now. Sunshine Home. We went there for a week one time. We made our own fun and
and did you form some close relationship with your other friends and so on?
Yes, we all sort of formed relationships, but then after I left, I sort of lost contact with a lot of them. And then after I got married, I moved out towards the south side, and I lost contact with a lot of them, except one particular friend of mine, which we'll call Mona.
And she's a friend. She's been a friend.
She's been a friend from day one, for over 40 years now. She took my more than that. She took she's my eldest son's godmother, and he's 43 this year. So that's the length of time now. And from then on, we never even fell out in all those years.
Well,
a very close relationship we had.
Friends can offer a stronger relationship and friendships than relatives can.
Oh yes, yeah.
Going back now, you had the problem with the passport, but that was resolved. They gave you a document, did they?
They gave me a document, yeah.
And you were able to go on your way to Lourdes?
I was able to go to Lourdes, and I still have that document there. If ever I have.
Right, so you came back. So what was the next step you made now to...
Well, I couldn't do much more then because, you hadn't got the money to... Well, you didn't know where to start.
Right, well, can I ask you, you must have had all kinds of things going through your mind that your mother was this kind of woman or your father was this type of man.
Yes.
Tell us some of these fantasies. What did you picture them as? Of course, you probably would like to have thought that they were very well off, did you?
No, it never dawned on me whether they were poor, if they were poor, rich or what. It was just the not knowing who I was. But, there was no... animosity, or I don't know what you would call it. But I didn't, I just had that bit of a chip on my shoulder for a while. But
Tell us about the next stage now, when you went about trying to track down.
well, I didn't bother them for years until a friend of mine introduced me to a researcher. And I gave him whatever papers I had, which was very, very little. And I said there's no way that he would come up with anything. And he did.
That's Leo O'Toole.
Leo O'Toole, yeah.
Right.
And he went into great research for me. And that was only now, I was 58, that was 58 years on before now I discovered.
So what did you discover there?
I discovered that I wasn't even born in Dublin, that I was born in the Midlands, and that my mother died 12 days after I was born. And when I did get in contact with cousins, which I have, here's Leo now, with cousins that I have, they didn't even know I existed. They knew that my mother had a baby, but as far as they were concerned, I died at birth, and until I turned up, I never existed at all.
Well,
so that was a great surprise for them and a big surprise for me.
Maybe this is the time to bring Leo into action.
Yeah.
Now, Leo, you might tell us some of the steps you took to try and trace.
Well, when Ester Carrol came to me and asked me to find out who her natural mother was, if I could find her, well, I said I'd have a go and I'd see what I can come up with. So Esther gave me, she gave me her baptismal certificate with her parents' names on it. Born in 1929. So I'd done 2 years each side of 1929, 5 years altogether, 1927, 28, 29, 30 and 31. And I couldn't come up with any names that was on the baptismal certificate. So I stuck then with 1929, and there was, I remember 3 or 4 Ester Carrols born for that year, and all to unmarried mothers. So I eliminated the 2 or 3, the first 2 or 3, and I concentrated on the one that I thought most likely to be Esther's entry of birth.
You have to have a sense of the detective, haven't you, to be able to say, well, this sounds like this one now I'd go for.
Yeah, that's when I say in a sense I eliminated them. I just done a brief search on them, and I said, well, I won't go for those. I'll go for this one in November 1929, even though the birth was a month out. And what?
And then, okay, so that brings on. And so, what was the first bit of information you were able to give Esther?
I discussed it with you, remember? I said, I think this one might be here, and Esther said to me, well, you're the expert. So, right, I said. The first bit of information.
Were you surprised, for instance, that you were the place of birth?
Yes, because as far as I can remember now, the lady that fostered me, she's still alive, and it was her aunt that fostered me actually, but this old lady is still alive and I still visit her. And it was I often asked her, did she ever know where I come from, or did they ever give her any information? And the only information that she ever had was something to do with Kingstown or something like that. So I told this to Leo. So Leo, anyway, in his search, I thought it might be Dunleary because it was called Kingstown at one time. But it turned out then that Leo traced it to Kings County in the Midlands.
That's right, yeah.
And he started to work from there.
Were you surprised to think that you were a country lass?
I was very surprised, and more surprised to know that my husband's parents come only a few miles from where I was born.
Really?
And I was already married over nearly 40 years at this time and never knew it.
Really?
And when Leo came with these papers to me, with Carol's on them, I said to Leo, I said, you're only wasting your time. So them is all my husband's relations, because he has a lot of relations, Carrols too.
Right.
And we could have been married. Intermarried.
It would be in-laws.
But anyway, it turned out that they were. It is in popular name down there.
Right.
And from there on, anyway.
How was the first contact made with the people down there?
Well, Leo made the contact.
Can I ask Leo how he did that? How you went about that, Leo?
Yeah, I discovered on the birth certificate. Will I mention the name of the place in the Midlands? But this is what I had to go on. If it just said the county, I would have, I might have never been able to.
It's a Midland town, isn't it? It's the Midland town.
It's a Midland townland. A townland, actually, So the name of the townland where Ester Carrol was, this Ester Carrol that was born in November 1929, the name of the townland was on the birth certificate. So I started inquiring about the Carrol family from this townland. And one query led to another. In other words, I rang up the people in the area through the phone book, looking in the phone book from people from that townland. And one person was able to tell me that there was a Carrol living up in another townland in the same county that was originally from
that area.
So I checked the phone book for that person and discovered that they weren't on the phone. So I next telephoned the postmistress, the post office, and the postmistress knew the people that they come in to collect their pension. And I asked them would they pass on a message to this lady. So the postmistress told me that the lady, she's elderly, but she has another relation living with her, that she'll pass the message on to him, and it turned out to be
My aunt.
Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry. Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah, my cousin Jerry.
So this man, Jerry, I asked the lady in the postmistress to ask him to ring me. So a couple of days later, I got a phone call from this man, Jerry, and I had a chat with him. And one thing led to another, and it started all peace.
How did this man react to this person from Dublin ringing up?
Very nice. Very nice. Very, very nice person. I never met the man.
Right.
But
and
couldn't be more helpful.
And did you actually set up a meeting?
I did. I set up a meeting with himself and.
Right. So then you had to go along and you had to tell Esther then that listen, yeah, we have to make in contact. And how did you feel about that when you heard that?
Well, it wasn't quite sure, because I had come up with against so many brick walls.
You were used to disappointment.
Yes, and I felt, well, it can't be true,
But now we have to make the trip. The trip starts here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway,
you might tell us a little bit about that trip.
Jerry wrote to me and we made an appointment to go down on a Sunday afternoon. So myself, my husband, and my son. My son.
Can I say something? Sorry. I also wrote, when I got in contact with Jerry, I wrote a letter to him.
Yeah.
Explaining my feelings and what I believed in. That I believed that this lady Esther was, this was the one and the same person. Was the child that was born the infant that was born in 1929, and Esther was, I believed, there was one and the same person.
Right.
And I wrote the letter to him, and then I made arrangements then with him through the letter.
Jerry would have been, what relation now would he have been?
A cousin, first cousin of mine. Yeah.
Right.
So he has. There's an aunt of mine living with him too, and she remembered my mother.
Right. Well, bring us now in the car journey up there.
Well, my son drove us down. I couldn't drive down my own car because I was too nervous. I sat in the back and I never spoke the whole way down the car. I just felt so nervous, and my husband came with me, and we met the people. They were waiting for us when we got down, and we got a great welcome. And I met an aunt of mine. She's well into her 80s now, and she would have been the eldest of my mother's sisters. She was the eldest of the family, and my mother was the youngest of 10.
Right.
So she remembered my mother.
And this person would have been the nearest person to your mother that you could get.
Yes. And she remembered my mother, and she was great with my mother. As a matter of fact, she took my mother to hospital to have the baby.
Sorry, was she actually an aunt, was she?
Pardon?
Was she actually a sister of your mother's?
Yeah, she was the elder sister
Yeah,
of
so-
10. Yeah.
So that
Was
meeting
it?
went well, did
I
it?
don't think so, Tassie. I think she was your first cousin, actually, you know. I think she was your mother's first cousin. Sorry if I interrupt.
Well, that's okay. Well, we'll just check that. But we have established that she would have been a first cousin.
She's the first cousin of mine, yeah. She's the eldest of 17 first cousins that I have still alive.
And she remembered bringing your mother down to have you.
Down to have me, yeah. Because
What did they think?
they were like more like mother and daughter, because she was from the eldest. She was the daughter of the eldest of the family, and my mother was the youngest of the family. So they were like mother and daughter instead of, you know.
Yeah.
But she took my mother from the house where she worked to the hospital, and as far as they knew, I never existed, because they were under the impression that I died at birth, and my mother died 12 days after I was born. So I would have been disposed of anyway if I had have died at that time. So they didn't know I existed until I arrived on their doorstep. So it was a great surprise to them and me.
Surprise to them and you.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny to think also that, like, this, your mother, like, going up to Dublin, she has the baby, she died.
She didn't come up to Dublin.
Where did she had
the baby in the Midlands.
On the Midlands as well.
Hospital, yeah. Oh yes,
but,
yeah.
she didn't come back. She died in hospital.
She died in hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who would have put about the idea that the baby died? Who would have been responsible? Do you think?
I don't know. My grandparents now were dead at that time, at that stage, before she had the baby, and the Aunt Peg now knew that she had the baby, but when she died now 12 days, she died of kidney failure, and they assumed, they may have been told in the hospital, or I don't know who took me from the hospital, and it's a mystery from who took me from the hospital and where I was from. I was born until I was 3 years of age, until I went to the foster home. I have no recollection of that at all.
Sounds like
I cannot find out. I cannot find out.
Well, having gone down and met them and so on, what did that do for you?
Oh, that was wonderful. You know, they brought me to the cemetery where my mother was buried, and grandparents, the whole lot. We had a lovely meal, and brought me down to where she was, where the house was. There's nothing there now, only fields. The house is gone, and they showed me where she would have gone to school, and where she made her first communion in the church there beside the cemetery. And it was great, really.
Where she danced.
Where she danced, yeah. Where she would have gone dancing.
So do you feel, looking back, that it was worth the effort?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And
It was a sense of, well, I knew she was gone, and that, well, I felt that she was looking after me from up above, because I had 4 very healthy children, and most of my cousins now, they've had families. Some of them had no families. A lot of their children died at birth and one thing and another, but I had 4 healthy children, and I feel she must have looked after me.
have you considered for a moment that if your mother had been still alive and you were going on that car journey, what would you have said? Would you have something prepared to have said to her, or could you have visualised a kind of conversation?
No, well, you see, if she was alive at that stage, she would have been well into her 80s. So I would have been expecting maybe to meet somebody senile, or, you know, I wouldn't have known what to expect. But I would have likened her to know, and I would have liked to see the reaction.
Right. Now you went through all this, and for you it was a worthwhile experience going down and finding out, and it lifted a certain. I don't know how to describe it, whether it was a cloud, but it made you feel more complete. Would that be a better way to say it?
Yeah, definitely. At least I knew then where I was born, who I was, and I was delighted that Leo had done so much.
You,
for me to
you
find
really
out.
didn't expect
Oh,
him to come up
I
with...
didn't, no. I thought I'd come up against the blank wall again.
You had very little information on that one, really, didn't you? You'd scant
He had a hard
information.
job to...
Well, it was enough. The information on that birth certificate was enough to go on. Once I found out the exact place, that's nearly the main part. The exact, the parish or the town under the town.
So what essentially do you need? What are the things that you look for to make your job easier and to get a greater degree of success?
The parents' names, the date of birth, or the parish or the town where the person was born. That's providing that's if it's a very common name. But if it's a rare name, just maybe the person's name and roughly the date of birth.
Right. Up to what time were records kept at parish records? How far back will they go?
They vary from parish to parish. Different parishes. Some start in 1820. So, for instance, some parishes in Dublin City begin in 1690. Some rural parishes start 1790. But generally speaking, around the 1820s, 1830s is when the parishes start.
Right.
But having said that, some parishes didn't begin until 1870.
Right.
Parish record now, parish registers now I'm speaking about at this stage, like entries in the books and that,
Yes, yeah.
Excuse me, Leo, you also looked into the census of around about that time too, didn't you?
In the census, yeah.
He got all the census and who would have been living in the house where I was born and
Who was gone out of it?
who was gone out was and all that information.
So Esther, Leo did a very good job for you.
Very, very good. And couldn't thank him enough now. He's put a lot of time and work into it and I never thought he would come up as well as Trumps, but he did, and I'm indebted to him.
Yeah. And thank you, Leo, for coming along as well.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay.